Call to order, Town of Prescott Valley, regular Town Council meeting, March 27th, 2025. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Keo.
Present.
Councilmember Freund. Councilmember Greer.
Here.
Councilmember Schumacher.
Present.
Vice Mayor Searcher.
Here.
Mayor Pulguna.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, I'd like to welcome down Pastor Ken May with Quad City for our invocation and to lead us in the pledge. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. To the one who sits on the throne with peals of lightning and the rumblings of thunder, who sits before the golden lampstand in a sea of glass, who holds time in his hand and holds all authority, yet entered the world in humility as the son of a teenage girl and a pious craftsman. It is only by grace that we can come before you, and what a gift to be loved by the Father. Despite your power, authority, and majesty, you welcome us like a parent welcomes their child. Father, nothing is hidden from your sight. Nothing takes you by surprise. And we will all give an account for this life you have blessed each of us with. Please help us keep those facts in full view of our decision making. You know all the needs of our community. You see those who cry to you for help. Our prayer today is that you would first and foremost bless this council and the entire town staff with humility. The humility to remember that these seats are occupied in order to serve others. Please bless them with wisdom to make decisions that will bless the community for generations to come. Please give them courage to act in the best interest of others and to lead with all honesty. I pray that you will surround them with honest advisors and good information, as we are all but dust and can only do the best we can with the information we have at the time. You have been called Adonai, our Lord and our Master. You are El Roi, the one who sees us. Thank you for being so very personable. Thank you for revealing yourself to all the world through Jesus. And it is by his name we get to ask these things of you. Thank you and amen. I pledge.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 3, approval of the agenda. Council, we had a chance to review the agenda. If we wish to keep it the same, entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor by voice vote, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on, item 4, proclamation, National Library Week.
Whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can explore new ideas and be drawn to new possibilities. Whereas libraries serve as a vibrant community hubs, connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resource while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and lifelong learning. And whereas libraries provide free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals, regardless of background, have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. And whereas libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations, connecting the dots to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. And whereas libraries empower job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources, training, and opportunities that support career growth and economic success. And whereas libraries nurture young minds through story times, STEM programs, and literacy initiatives, fostering curiosity and a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. And whereas libraries protect the right to read, think, and explore without censorship, standing as champions of intellectual freedom and free expression. And whereas dedicated librarians and library workers provide welcoming spaces that inspire discovery, collaboration, and creativity for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme, Drawn to the Library. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Kel Plagura, Mayor of the Town of Prescott Valley, proclaim April 6th through the 12th, as National Library Week. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit the library, explore its resources, and celebrate all the ways that the library draws us together as a community. Thank you.
This year's National Library Week theme, Drawn to the Library, highlights the many reasons people are inspired to visit and connect with their local libraries. At the Prescott Valley Public Library, we are proud to serve as a hub for learning, creativity, and connection, not just for Prescott Valley, but our neighbors throughout the Quad Cities and Yavapai County. Whether it's access to books, technology, classes, or community programs, there is something that draws everyone in. We also want to recognize our incredible library staff whose dedication and heart make the library a welcoming and inspiring place for all. Thank you for your continued support as we celebrate all the ways our community is drawn to the library. Thank you.
Now listen to Latoya. One more time for the library crew. Next up, item 5A, I'd like to welcome down Curtis Kleiman and Brad Fain for the Giving Machine presentation of checks. Take it away, sir.
Mayor, Town Council, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Sam Yamamoto, and I'm a representative of the community, the committee that brought the giving machines to our community here. Briefly, the giving machines, they're vending machines that offer charities, charitable items. So instead of getting something, you actually give something. So, can you hear me okay? Okay. I got the short one. So some of the items are a pair of shoes, water pump, meals, hygiene kits, school supplies, and there are many more things. And that was brought to our community for the first time last year through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. President Kleiman represents the Prescott Valley Church, and he's up here to give these checks to the charities. Just wanted to recognize a few people who helped make this possible. President Kleiman, for one. And then we have Nicole. I know she has to leave here soon, but you should wave your hand. She and her husband were the former Light the World Giving Machines city leads. They brought the giving machines to this area in Prescott a couple years ago. There's also Brad Fain. I know he's here today. If you would like to come up too, please. He allowed us to use his facility. The giving machines were posted just right in front of the theater, so we invite him and we thank him. There's also Barbara Van Moses. I saw her come in. Is Barbara here? No? Okay. She is part of Colt's Barbecue Grill. We had about 100 volunteers who helped draw attention to the vending machines, or the giving machines, excuse me, and they needed to use the facility sometimes. So Colt's Barbecue helped us out with that, so we thank them. And then there were many volunteers from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Catholic Church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, other churches, and many, many members of our community who came and helped just make this possible and as successful as it was. And all the people in the community who came and donated and purchased these items. So we have 3 checks we're going to give out today. I should tell you this, there were 7 charities who were represented in these machines, and we have 3 of them that are local. So Chino Valley Education Foundation, I see Cindy Daniels is here, and Wayne Ballard, and if you'd come up. Okay, so we'll do one big picture here in a second, but if you would like to hold that. The second group is the Coalition for Compassion and Justice, and that is Neil. Let's see, Allison and Jared. Okay, sorry. But we do want you back to take a picture with everyone, so. And then there's Meals on Wheels, and that was Neil Sneller. Neil, he was here, yeah. Come on up, Neil. Wayne and, oh, hang on, guys. We want to get a picture of all three of you. Yeah, if you can come back, we just want a group picture, yeah.
Stand here. No. You stand and hold it.
Yes.
Now listen. Yeah, you gotta get in the picture too. And, there we go. Scoot over here.
Or do you want us in front of the podiums?
Yeah.
Okay.
Round of applause. Great job, guys. Next up, APS Fire Mitigation and Safety Strategies for 2025. Frank Sanderson, Northern Arizona Division Director.
Honorable Mayor, esteemed council, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for letting us come and speak to this important topic. As you know, your APS does a lot of work all year long to make sure that we are helping to mitigate wildfire around Prescott Valley and Yavapai County. Some of the ways we do that is through vegetation management. All year long, we are clearing our right-of-ways to make sure that everything that could potentially come in contact with our infrastructure is taken care of. One thing I really want to highlight with this is a couple of years ago, we implemented a new strategy known as defensible space around poles. Just real quickly, this is what this looks like after a fire has burnt through. Caused by other means, thankfully. And basically what we do is we clear 10 feet of vegetation around each structure that has any type of device that is spark emitting. And then the area is treated, and as you can see, and we have multiple examples of this, but it's very, very effective. The other thing that we do in partnership with the Forest Service is our hazard tree program, and basically what that is our right-of-way is very designated as APS, this is your area, but there in certain areas where the vegetation is taller, there still is a chance that some of those trees could get into our line. And so if we identify either dead or dying trees, we work with the Forest Service or the land agency to make sure that we can go in there and remove that so that when the next storm comes in, it does not come into our infrastructure. Throughout the years, and it's increased and increased over the last 10 years, our investment in the infrastructure, especially within our fire mitigation areas. Basically, if you live in Northern Arizona, you are in what we consider a fire mitigation area. APS has 1,500 feeders or circuits, and 237 of those are deemed in a high fire risk area, the majority of those being in Northern Arizona. Another technology that we implemented over the last few years is the fire mesh wrap. And basically what that is, if you picture chicken wire, it kind of looks like that, but it's actually a heat dissipating mesh that is wrapped around wood poles. And as the fire burns through, that mesh actually dissipates the heat. And I've actually seen it where we've held a torch on this stuff, and instantly you can put your hand on it and no burn, thank goodness, because I burned myself in a lot of other ways. Also, we've done a lot of work. We are proactively changing out all our fusing in those fire mitigation areas. Your traditional fuse when it blows, does emit sparks. And so we're going through all our fire mitigation areas, replacing it with non-spark emitting fusing, and really looking at our infrastructure to make sure that, you know, we are helping to prevent any fires within our areas. We consider ourselves a steel pole company. The reason we are using that fire mesh on wood poles is because we use steel poles as much as we can. If we can't, due to access, because in those non-access areas, our linemen have to actually climb the pole, we use wood poles and we wrap it with a fire mesh. You may have noticed a lot of APS activity around here lately. Every year at this time, we do a specific fire mitigation patrol on every fire mitigation feeder. We do multiple patrols throughout the year, but this one specifically, and as different defects or things are identified, we fix those on an accelerated pace to make sure that we are ready. You know, we call May 1st fire season, but as you know, especially with the weather we're having lately, all year long is fire season. We also have introduced drone patrols with infrared technology, and what this does, if you can imagine somebody patrolling a line, looking at it from the ground, you see a certain perspective. And what these drones enable us to do is see our infrastructure from a different vantage point, and we can see things that we normally wouldn't. From a monitoring and awareness perspective, this is something that I'm really excited to tell you about. I'm sure some of you have heard of these things in other forms, but we've invested in advanced fire modeling software. It's basically a really smart computer that takes in all kinds of data, both current data and historic data, and it's able to predict what type of fire weather we are having anywhere from 5 to 7 days out, and that will be important here in a minute. As part of that, we are installing a lot of weather stations in different places. If you were to take out your iPhone right now and say, hey, what's the temperature and wind in Prescott Valley, it'll tell you one number for both of those. But we know that different parts of town experience different kinds of weather all at the same time. And so what these weather stations do, we're putting up as many as we can in strategic locations to make sure that we have as much data as possible, good data that we can then make decisions with. The other thing that and I want to thank this group and many of the communities here in Yavapai County for supporting us in getting a grant, is for AI cameras and regular cameras. So we have two kinds of cameras, just like I said. The first is AI, and I'll explain that in a minute. The second is just your regular zoom in, zoom out, pan around, be able to look around. And just the AI cameras are special because they're 360 degrees. They can see a very long way, and they can identify smoke and heat. And they have the ability to decipher whether it's an emergency or not. This is just a view from one of those cameras. This is in the Flagstaff area, and you can see that small bit of smoke and that heat, it's triangulating in on there, and we've worked with our partners both at all of the municipalities and the county to make sure that they have access to these cameras. Just to give you an idea of the value, I'm sure you're all aware of the Brady fire that happened a month or so ago south of Mayer. Our cameras were able to identify that, and what it does is it sends a text and an email straight to our fire mitigation team, who then alert county and municipal emergency management. Here is, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible at PowerPoint, so if you can't see this, I can get you a bigger version, but this is where we currently have both weather stations, regular cameras, and AI cameras, and we have a progressive campaign to continue to deploy these in the future throughout this year and coming years. Before I get into public safety power shutoff, I want to quickly talk about the non-reclose strategy, because they're two different things, and I think a lot more of your communities will see the effects of the non-reclose strategy versus the public safety power shutoff. Best way I can explain the reclose strategy is we've all been sitting at our house in the middle of a thunderstorm. Lightning strikes, the lights go out, and then a minute later, they come back on. And that's because we have a microprocessor-based device, relaying and protection, looking at the line. When it detects something, it opens up, and then it counts to 60, closes back in. During high fire risk season, we tell that relay to not do that. And instead of closing back in, we send our what we call troublemen out to patrol the line and make sure everything's okay before we turn it back on. Now, the difference between that and public safety power shutoff is oh my goodness, I'm a little tongue-tied today. Public safety power shutoff is what we would call a tool of last resort. We started this program last year. I'm sure the council was presented to last year on this. And what it is utilizing that advanced analytics software. We are able to predict severe weather events 5 to 7 days out, and we've identified areas of the highest risk. Those community members within your territory, they will be communicated with if they are in that area or not. And just to give you an idea of what that would look like, 5 to 7 days out, if I said, hey, Saturday, the analytic software is telling us on Saturday at 3 o'clock, from 3 o'clock till 6 in the morning on Sunday is a potential public safety power shutoff. The first thing we would do, Darla and I would get a call, and our first call would be to Mari at the county and to Ashley, the emergency management at the county. It would then go to the municipality leadership because we want to make sure that the leadership knows first. But it would be a very tight window, and then we would communicate with our customers. From there, the same thing would happen the very next day. If the recommendation is still there by the system and we decide that it's of great enough risk to the safety of our communities, same thing will happen. Call to the county, call to municipality and to our customers, and it will progress just like that every day until the actual day of. Knowing that the weather can change, it may be called off, but if it does come to that, the final communication will come to everybody an hour before. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like, the actual weather event is from 3 to 6. Well, at 6 o'clock, we're going to be ready to patrol. And the reason I talked about the reclosing strategy is normally in that scenario, we send 2 to 3 troublemen out to patrol the line. In this scenario, we have set up patrols, and we have a robust plan, and there will be 15 to 30 people patrolling that line. In addition to that, to get it on quickly, we will have full crews set there ready to go with poles, devices, conductor, everything we need that if we find something that we can respond appropriately and get our customers back on as quickly as possible. And I got talking, and we don't need to see that slide. The last thing I would really encourage, and this is also in partnership with the county, is please help us to communicate out to our citizenry and our communities to be prepared. APS has lots of materials. I know the county does. For us, it's very important that the communities and customers that are medically monitored or have a medical reason to identify themselves so that we know. And what we do there is we take that information, and as we're restoring power, we take that into consideration. From the county's perspective, it helps them know where those people are and what they need to do and the level of risk they have there. So just want to make sure that, whether it's a public safety power shutoff, a flood, a storm, whatever it may be, that we're prepared both as organizations and as individuals. And with that, I'll turn it over to questions.
Councilman?
Quick question. Are those big cylindrical cans at the top of the poles, are those transformers? Is that what you call them?
So they're usually tube shaped, and they're, depending on the size, they're cylindrical and they're about that big. So yes, those are transformers.
See a lot of rusty ones around town. As they rust out, do they become a fire hazard?
So depending on to the level that they do, one thing I will say I have found throughout my experience with APS is, sometimes the older ones, depending on the loading of the circuit and everything like that, it's really, is it sealed? If it's leaking oil, we'll change it out. Because it has rust on it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be changed out. And with the current manufacturing and materials, some of the older transformers are actually a lot better than the newer ones. They last a lot longer, obviously. But that is one of the devices when we talk about defensible space around poles. If there is a pole with a transformer on it, that is where we do that. But we look at a lot of different things on a transformer because it does have oil, the fusing around it, and just the loading. If area grows with new homes, new load, a lot of times we'll have to go in and replace that transformer with a bigger one that can support the load.
Councilman?
I guess it's more of a comment what I have. As a former first responder, I just want to compliment you on not only a good presentation, but an informative one. But the fact that you fellows are really thinking out forward, really projecting all the different things that can go wrong. And I'm really glad that there's a lot of smart thinking and forward planning there to get out ahead of this. We've seen California as the poster child for what can happen if you don't do all these things. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Frank, I just want to commend you and your team. Darla's here. And I want the individuals in the audience and those watching just to know how much you do for Prescott Valley and how much you actually care for your customers. And we appreciate that. And I just would hope that you can just leave us with just a quick story about your grandpa and how much he cared about customers and how he went through generation. And you're like a third generation APS worker. I think you share that. I think it'll say a lot about this man and what he does and how much he means about customer service to our community.
So thank you for that. Hopefully this is an interesting story. I've done a lot of studying on the history of APS, and my grandfather actually was the division manager in Holbrook, Arizona, when it was Northern Arizona Power and Light, and then it became APS before he retired. As the division manager, he had a quandary where a customer couldn't pay a bill. And so he went to the customer, and my grandpa being a farmer as well, the guy said, well, I can't pay it until I sell my cow. And he's like, well, I'll just take it as collateral and we're good. And once you can pay it, then come back, get your cow, we're good. So my grandfather actually took the cow in, kept it at the service center yards, tied it up. He actually sold hay at the time, and so he fed it and took care of it and everything like that. Don't know how much work he got done during that time, but eventually the customer, within a very short period of time, came back and got his cow. But the interesting thing about that is that was always joked about when I was a kid. But I'm a board member with Charlotte Hall and the Western Heritage Center, and I've actually found a speech that the chairman of the APS board in 1970 gave, and he noted that story out, and so that was really cool.
There you go, folks. Bet you didn't think you were going to hear that today. So. Thanks, Frank, for all you do.
Thank you.
Next up, call to the public. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters listed on the agenda or solely on matters within the jurisdiction of the town. Any persons wishing to address the council must register their name with the town clerk prior to the commencement of the meeting. The council's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Such remarks shall be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the mayor. Clerk?
We only have one person registered, Karen Hunt.
I'm sorry, ma'am, did you say one? Welcome, Ms. Hunt.
My name is Karen Hunt, and I live in, is it this one or this one? And I live in Prescott Valley, Arizona, and I want to speak about smart meters. I've known about smart meters for close to 20 years. And I worked as a caregiver for many years, and a client of mine, when APS came out, and put a smart meter on his house. It interfered with his pacemaker and defibrillator. I had to have it, they put it on, next day or two, they had to take it back off and put the analog on. People who have family history of cancer, migraines, and heart problems, they cannot have the smart meter anywhere around them. And ringing of the ears is also from the smart meter. I don't have it on my house, but the neighbors around have the smart meter on their house, and everything smart meter, smart meter. And that's why if you get ringing in the ears, it's because of the smart meter. I'm opposed on having the smart meter because I have family history of cancer, family history of migraines, and everything that a smart meter I'm against it because there's a lot of medical things that they don't want to tell you about the smart meter will have. So I just want to let you know that.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate you coming out.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council for allowing me to speak.
Next up, item 7, council communications. I'll start to my right, Councilman Williams. Go ahead, ma'am.
I just wanted to put out a shout out to, it's called the League of Extraordinary Grandparents. It's a new nonprofit that has come to Prescott Valley, and I had the opportunity to go to their first event. It's grandparents, grandparenty people, volunteers, spending time with children in the foster care system or with, at-risk youth. And it's just an opportunity for them to bond and have some time together. And it was just really beautiful, and I was grateful to participate in that.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd just like to bring attention, just recently last week, Tony Conover, he's a longtime business owner in the town of Prescott Valley. He started off owning Tony's Bar over on Valley Drive and then moved up to Tony's 2 up on Long Mesa. He was a true gentleman, a true businessman. He treated every single person he ever met like family. And like I said, he passed away last week. He will be having a celebration of life here at the Theater on the Green next Saturday from 12 to 2. Even if you never even met the man, show up, listen to the stories that they tell about him, and you will be impressed. So again, next Saturday, 12 to 2, celebration of life. Go ahead, ma'am.
I just want to remind people of the Bradshaw Mountain High School play. You can't take it with you. It'll be on April 3rd and 4th at 7 o'clock and 5th at 2 o'clock. And I hope you'll go and enjoy it.
Mr. Davison, you're up.
Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, no report other than we have a very important basketball game tonight. The University of Arizona versus Duke. So hopefully have good news after that.
All right, next up, item 9, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the town council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the council or the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Council, we've had a chance to review our packet. If there's nothing to be removed, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve all items listed under the consent agenda by electronic vote.
Have a second?
I second the motion.
Clerk, please call the vote.
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, old business, dividing community service department, ordinance number 2025-951. This is our second reading. Council, will you have any other questions or comments for this prior to the second reading? Clerk?
Ordinance number 2025-951. An ordinance of the mayor and common council of the town of Prescott Valley, a municipal corporation of Arizona, amending section 10-2-40, town parks, playgrounds, and outdoor recreational areas, rules and regulations, in Article 10-2, town property, in Chapter 10, offenses, of the town code to reflect the newly created Parks and Recreation Department, providing that all other chapters, articles, and sections of the town code not herein repealed, reenacted, or amended shall remain in full force and effect, providing that if any provision in this ordinance is held invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, the remaining provision shall not be affected, but shall continue in full force and effect, and providing that this ordinance shall be effective 30 days after its passage and approval according to law.
Thank you, ma'am. Shall this ordinance pass?
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 11, construction contract of the Summit Tank 18-inch water line, CIP number CW 2507, in the amount of $1,098,282.50 with PAP LLC. Mr. Wadsworth.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. So I have a presentation for you tonight. It's going to be a little bit different than I had originally anticipated. So I'm going to briefly run through the project, and then I'm going to talk about where we're going from here with this. But I just wanted to remind everybody what this project is initially, and then we'll get into that. And so this is for adding a new 18-inch water line going between the Summit Tank, which is up halfway up the side of Glassford Hill, and our tank farm location down at the bottom, closer to Granville and Castle Canyon Mesa. That 18-inch line is to supply the 3 million gallon water tank and the 1 million gallon water tank that are up on the side of Glassford Hill. And that 3 million gallon tank was constructed a couple years ago. So this is the second phase of the project to be able to allow more water to be transferred up and brought back for demand, for firefighting, for redundancy and operational flexibility. There will ultimately be a third phase of this project, which will be a enlarged pumping station at the tank farm location as well. So that's kind of the background for this project. We actually went out to bid for this, and we received 9 bids as shown here. And we were prepared to recommend awarding this contract tonight. However, yesterday, the low bidder requested to withdraw their bid. And so as you can see, their bid is substantially lower than the next bidder and about $250,000 lower than the second low bidder. But if you'll look, you'll see bidder number 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all very closely spaced in terms of what I would consider close together when you're talking about a project of this size, when they're all within, $20,000, $30,000 of each other. And so it gives me, basically when looking at it, tells me that that's really about the value of this project. It's somewhere around a $1.35 to $1.4 million project. You can see the low bidder was less than $1.1 million. So we initially did contact them, and we were, after the bids were opened, we provided them with all the bids, all the breakdowns from the other contractors. And we've been talking to them about whether, their bid was what they were comfortable with, because you don't want to go into a project with somebody underbidding something, knowing they're losing money right up front, because that project will not go well. So they initially were standing by their bid, but over the course of the last week or so, they have decided that they needed to pull their bid. And so I did provide you with a copy of the letter that they sent yesterday. And so this evening, what I would propose is that council table this item. And what we would be doing is potentially bringing this back to you in 2 weeks. And I anticipate that what we would be doing is potentially awarding this to the second low bidder. But we need to pause for a moment and circle the wagons and go from here. So with that, I would open it up to any questions that you might have on this.
Questions for Mr. Wadsworth? So now I will entertain a motion to remove this or table this item for next council meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw agenda item 11A to be brought forth to the council at a later date due to the lowest bidder, PAP LLC, withdrawing their bid.
Have a second.
A second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, item 11B, Old Black Canyon Water Transmission Main and Multi-Use Path Design Service Agreement with Deva and Associates in the amount of $113,090 and requested budget transfer. Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes, good evening. So this item, basically, we're looking to award the design contract for the Old Black Canyon water transmission main that we've previously talked to council about back in January, I believe. We did a budget transfer back then to be able to fund the design of this project now because we wanted to get this project moving forward, and we would be budgeting for the actual construction with the start of the new fiscal year starting in July. And so we had the budget approved already for the design work for the water transmission portion. At the same time, Parks and Public Works want to install the multi-use path that would be part of the proposed Lasso Loop Trail. This would complete the segment between Stone Ridge and Prescott Country Club. And so they would need to do a budget transfer in order to fund just the design portion of their portion of the work, and that's what's contained in your agreement. And just for a little bit of background, the reasoning for the pipeline that we're talking about is that this is an alternative project to help us address the PFAS issues, the contamination with PFAS that we are facing mainly down in the Quailwood area. And so this is a much less expensive, not only upfront cost, capital cost, but operational cost when you're comparing it to treatment at multiple well sites, where we'd be talking about potentially $10 million for the 3 different well sites down there. And so we need this pipeline for redundancy. We need this pipeline to be able to potentially serve the area during high demands, whether it's summertime usage, whether it's fires that are having to be fought. We need to make sure this pipeline is in place, because with 3 of the wells in that area now out of service, that leaves us 3 or 4 wells that we have left. You never know when one of those is going to go out of service, or 2 of those are going to go out of service for repairs. If we lose more wells down there, we need to have a redundant supply, and this pipeline addresses all of those issues. So sorry, I've been talking so much. I'll put this up there so the public can see what we're talking about. So this transmission main would run between the eastern boundary of Stone Ridge and the western boundary of Prescott Country Club along the Old Black Canyon Highway. And it's it would be in an existing right-of-way that Yavapai County controls the right-of-way, but it's also, there's state land section there and a Fane land and cattle section as well. So as part of this project, the multi-use path would be put in this alignment as well, and we would also install several pressure reducing stations, which would allow the higher water pressures on the west side to match with the lower water pressures on the east side. There's a schematic showing what the path would potentially look like. It would be a 12-foot wide asphalt paved path. And I think that addresses kind of all of the issues. And so we're looking for basically an approval of the budget transfer necessary for completing the multi-use path design portion and for awarding the design work to Deva and Associates.
Thank you, sir. Council, we have questions for Mr. Wadsworth. Councilman Williams.
I remember a couple of 3 years ago, we were talking about $2 million per well. Did I hear you right at estimate? I know we're not going to be able to hold you to exact dollar amounts, but did you say an estimate now might be $10 million per well in Quailwood?
No, sir. It was $10 million for the total of 3 wells in that area. So roughly $2.5 to $3 million per well site is what we were anticipating for that.
To get the PFAS out?
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilwoman, did you have anything? No? Okay. See no more questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Dobbin Associates for engineering design services for a new water transmission main and multi-use path in the Old Black Canyon Highway for a total amount of $113,090, and approve the requested budget transfer for the MUP design portion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
Mayor, that passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, item 11C, assignment of Yavaline agreements and other interest to Simpo. Ms. Reuter, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I do also have Vinny Gallegos here with Simpo, Executive Director for Simpo. So if you have any questions on this as we move through. This item before you is a request of assignment of the Microtransit Yavaline agreements and other interests to transfer from the town to Simpo, who's our regional partner in the area, as of July 1st. If you recall, back in 2022, the town received a CARES Act grant to start a pilot project for a microtransit program. Through that pilot project, we created a phased transit approach. Pedro, who was our previous transit manager, was extremely successful in getting that up and running phase 1 within Prescott Valley, and phase 2 within the city of Prescott. Since then, over the last year, I have been working with Simpo directly since Pedro moved on to bigger and better things, to make this as smooth transition as possible. This pilot program was never meant to stay with the town after the CARES Act funding runs out the end of June this year. So with our regional partner, this is the next step in that process. And basically, this assignment letter allows us to work with the Federal Transit Administration, who we've already been working with, to transfer any of our contracts that we have for operation, any of our vehicles that we purchase that will go now to Simpo, all on July 1st. Although the transition of the regional transit system is going to Simpo, our regional transit partner, that does not mean that we are not going to be fully invested in ensuring that our town residents still have this important service to get to shopping, to schools, to healthcare. And so will continue to work with Simpo in a positive direction. And Simpo, I have to say, has done amazing things since they've helped take over the operations side by bringing in private partnerships and actually starting a 2 trips a day to the VA now, which is amazing for our veterans. And I have Vinny here if you have any questions. To answer any further questions on how this will become no longer a pilot project, but actual regional transit program.
Thank you, ma'am. We have questions for Ms. Reuter or Mr. Gallego.
Question about costs. What do we spend now or up to this point per year versus when we make the transition, what will we be spending per year?
Mr. Mayor and Council.
Simple, but as a town.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor and council members and Councilmember Williams, first, if I may, just express deep gratitude for Prescott Valley's decision-making and leadership to start this a couple years ago. Again, over 2 years, hitting over 80,000 rides is really commendable. So again, thank you all very much. To the council member's question, right now, the cost per ride is just shy of $20 per ride right now at this time.
I was looking for like a yearly investment, like what does the town expend per year? Can Heather handle that? Versus what it would be after we make the transition?
So right now, it's 100% funded by CARES Act funding. So through the budget process and through working with Simpo, we will be coming through the budget process this fiscal year and asking for the support of Mayor and Council to continue this transit program. I don't have an exact dollar amount at this time.
Can I ask Mr. Davidson the same question?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Williams, so Heather Reuter had indicated it has all been paid for by outside federal dollars, grant dollars. Once that was exhausted, the town was going to have to assume a much larger share. So by having it be part of a regional system, we're anticipating approximately $300,000, which would also include our contribution to Simpo as part of the regional planning entity. Prescott will also be contributing that as well. So there will be a regional effort in terms of some of the funding that will help to support the Yava line ongoing.
As I recall, we're actually saving money if we do this over the original yearly cost. Is that true?
If we were going it alone, we are saving substantial sums of money. So it would have been well over $1 million that we would have had to have come up with. And so having a regional effort helps to reduce that cost while still maintaining the service.
Thank you.
Mr. Gallego, I just want to commend you and your staff. I've said it before, but to implement this Yava line and the success it's had not only in Prescott Valley, but in Prescott. For those of you that don't know, the #1 destination for those in Prescott using the system is the VA hospital. So it's getting veterans to services that they desperately need. So that is incredible. I know we're getting people to work, to school, and to medical, and it's really working out well. It's a collaborative effort that we've all been doing, and it's thanks to you and your team. So I just want to thank you for that, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
And this man, he cares about the community as well. He might not have a story about a goat or a cow, but he definitely does care about transit. And it's not only about vehicles, but he's working on wildlife and other transportation avenues. So give him a round of applause because he deserves it.
Thank you very much.
And seeing nothing else, I'd like to take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve an assignment and assumption agreement between the Town of Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization for purposes of transferring to SIMPO the Yava Line transit operation in Prescott Valley and Prescott as of July 1st, 2025 by electronic vote.
I second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
Mayor, that passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, final item, council attendance policy, ordinance 2025-952. Mr. Legler.
Mayor and Council, as you remember, we've talked about this a couple of times. During COVID, we included the option in a resolution and later in our town code for council members to attend council meetings through technology, and also for the public to attend through technology. We've kept that language in there. It's pretty broad. We haven't had to use it since COVID. But the question was, because it is so broad, is it really applicable the way we want to operate today? And so you asked us to bring forward an ordinance change that would provide some additional requirements for using technology. And in your last study session, you indicated that you were inclined to be fairly restrictive in the sense that a person would need to attend physically if they were going to vote, except in the rare circumstances where the town itself was dealing with an emergency or there was a need for a quorum in order to take care of some important business. And therefore, the town might then decide that it would use technology to help have that quorum. And so what you have in front of you are some amendments to Article 2-4 that take that position, that accomplish that. Now, you're free to consider what you would like to do with that ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Council, we have comments on this? Councilman Freund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You had indicated that you wanted a clean, easy to operate system, and I have one addition I think that would still keep it simple, where you wouldn't have to make any judgments. And that would be to allow 2 absences per council member per calendar year, but that would only go into effect once the new audio-visual system that we voted for would become operational. So, and I believe Vice Mayor Zurcher also had the concern about allowing remote voting if we needed a quorum. So I would like to table this for that and make that modification.
Vice Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think we need to table it. I think we can make a motion to accept the changes, and if council's in full in agreement. But definitely, I definitely think, because it's an attendance policy, that we are allowed possibly 2 excused absences per calendar year. And then definitely to what Councilmember Freund was suggesting, we revisit the electronic voting when the new audiovisual system is operational. I think that's not a bad, a bad idea.
Council, anything to comment in reference to this? So with that being said, we'll take a motion to accept Councilman Freund's addition to
Yep,
the
Mr.
policy by adding two absences for council. Is that-
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, I think we could add a sentence at the bottom of the changes we're already making to 204-010B, where we would say, notwithstanding the above, you can attend through technology 2 times a year. And so if you're willing to have me make that change, if someone wants to make that middle motion, a motion to read ordinance number 2025-952, oh, it's moved now. But it's the middle one that says by title only, and then it says with the following change. And if that change is acceptable, then that motion would work.
Do you want us to add that, sir, or are we just going to go what town attorney said? That's the motion.
Go ahead and see what the town attorney said, and we'll
That'll
make
work?
it work. Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
make it work.
So with that being said, can I get a second to that?
I'll second.
Clerk, please call the motion.
That passes unanimously, Mayor. Ordinance number 2025-952. An ordinance of the mayor and common council of the town of Prescott Valley, a municipal corporation of Arizona, amending Article 2-4, Council Procedure, in Chapter 2, Mayor and Council of the Town Code, to clarify when council members may appear and participate in council meetings through electronic means, providing that all other chapters, articles, and sections of the town code not herein repealed, reenacted, or amended shall remain in full force and effect, providing that if any provision in this ordinance is held invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, the remaining provision shall not be affected, but shall continue in full force and effect, and providing that this ordinance shall be effective 30 days after its passage and approval according to law.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we're on item 12, which is adjournment. Is there anything council wishes to add before we call it a night? Seeing none, thanks for coming out, everyone. Meeting adjourned. 12 minutes.